Just give you about 10 more seconds to take your seats. And we're going to get this show on the road. So it is that time of year again when we come together as a city with community to talk about budget. This is the first community conversation on the 2023 budget. We are delighted to be here in Inglewood, one of the most vibrant, exciting, and promising and forward-looking neighborhoods in our city. I am Tina Hone, Chief Engagement Officer for Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Before going over the format for tonight, I wanted to invite the interim president for Kennedy King College, Dr. Katanya Webb Walker, to come up and welcome us to this beautiful facility. Doctor?
Good evening. My name is Katanya Webb Walker, and I am completing my 4th day as interim president at Kennedy King College. So I welcome all of you, and I'm actually delighted that this is the first public event that I have the privilege and honor of hosting. And that's because this event really embodies 3 of the core values of Kennedy King College, and that is accessibility, respect, and integrity. And by pulling together a group of community members and community leaders, I believe that the city really does demonstrate that it has a great respect and that it honors the voices of our community. And so as it develops a budget, the fiscal year 23 budget, which really outlines the marching orders of the city for the upcoming year, to honor and to be transparent about the needs and the wants of the community is really vitally important. And I say that because my leadership tends to embody those very traits. And so for the duration of my time here as interim president, those are the qualities that my leadership will embody. So with that, I want to say thank you for coming out and welcome to your college.
Thank you, Dr. Webb Walker. It's also our privilege to have with us today the chair of the Budget Committee in the Chicago City Council, Chairman Pat Dowell.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for coming to the 2023 Budget Engagement Forum. This time last year, we were doing the same kind of engagement with all of the people across the city of Chicago. And many of the priorities that were voiced in those meetings by Chicagoans all over the city were reflected in the historic budget that was passed in 2022 under the leadership of Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Your priorities were reflected in that budget. And right now, dollars and programs and services are being placed on our streets, in our neighborhoods as we speak. And so I want you all to give yourselves a round of applause for making those things happen. So my message to you this evening is that no idea is wacky, no program is not important. And whether you care about art and culture or community development or public safety or streets and sanitation or the work that the human services departments do, your ideas reflected in this meeting are important, so please don't hold your tongue. While your voice is heard here today, make sure you also let your local alderperson know what you feel, how they should reflect your community's priorities in the budget process. Use your bully pulpit, your emails, your phone calls to call us and let us know what's on your mind. And finally, on behalf of my colleagues, the other 49 aldermen in the City Council, and all the constituents that we represent, we want to thank the City of Chicago city workers for all that you do to keep our city strong, for developing our people, and for serving on our behalf. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman Dowell. So some of you may have participated in our forums last year, and so you aren't surprised by this setup. But others, this may be your first time participating in our forums and wondering, why is this set up with tables? And we have found that in order to work with the community, we want you to be our thought partners. We want you to, when we want to be able to inform you, we want to be able to work with you as thought partners, and of course we want to be able to hear from you. But the thought partnership part is incredibly important. So here's how this evening is going to be structured. First, you're going to see a video and hear from our budget director, Susie Park, about where we are as a city in terms of budget. That includes talking about some of the historic investments that were made last year and that are starting to be felt in the community now. Next, you're going to hear from Taya Crum from the University of Illinois at Chicago Great Cities Institute. She helped us last year build out our budget forums, and she's with us again with her team this year. It's going to be a little different from last year because we're going to be doing some speed dating. We try to keep things fresh. So what you'll have is sort of 15 minutes to talk about one subject, bing, another 15 minutes, bing, and so forth and so on. We have senior staff and commissioners with us from the city. They'll be milling about and going to tables and answering questions. And then finally, we will have open mic. There'll be a half an hour of open microphone you'll see the mics on either side of the room. Rather than do a Q&A, we're asking people to make comments. All of those comments will be recorded, and you can ask questions, but we may not be able to answer all the questions tonight. But everything will be recorded, and everything will be compiled and captured in a report that we will release at the end of these engagements. This is the first of 3. We will be at Malcolm X on Saturday. You're welcome to come again. And we will be the following Saturday at Truman College. We tried to have locations in different parts of the city to make it convenient for stakeholders across the city. When we make our comments, I'm going to ask that they be kept to 60 seconds so that the maximum number of people can participate. We'll see how mean I have to be about cutting folks off. In addition, there are cards on your table, or you received them when you came in. Some people don't want to stand up and ask a question, but want to be able to say something or ask a question. You can complete those cards, and members of our staff will come pick them up. Finally, the mayor generally joins us at these events, but unfortunately she had a death in her family, and so she's actually on an airplane back to Ohio to be with her family. She will be back sometime late Saturday, and she won't be participating in this event or in the event next Saturday. She will be at Truman College, and again, that will be an opportunity for you all to see her. But before she left, she did record a message for all of us, and I was hoping we could show her message.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. And while I'm sorry that I can't join you at this engagement forum because I have a family matter that I'm attending to, I am grateful that you're here, ready and willing to provide your insights and ideas to our city's commissioners and leaders. Since 2019, we have met with you in your communities or through virtual spaces to hear about your needs and vision for Chicago's future. Your participation in these forums is a critical part of our budget building process. This is especially true in last year's budget process when we received a once-in-a-generation investment from the federal government. These funds helped us forge ahead together and start the process of recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. After multiple rounds of engagement with residents all over the city, we built you and I and everyone else who participated, the most progressive budget in our city's history. By leveraging federal and local funds, we were able to make an $89 million investment in mental health services, enabling us to expand our network of trauma-informed centers of care and our capacity to serve Chicagoans. We made a $635 million investment in affordable housing, which supported over $1 billion of investments in affordable housing, creating over 2,400 affordable units. And we made a $135 million investment in violence prevention initiatives, such as our Home and Business Protection Program. These are among many other investments aimed at improving the entire city and especially our communities that have historically been underfunded and disinvested in on the south and the west sides. The 2022 budget planted seeds and a promise for Chicago's future. The 2023 budget is about keeping that promise and ensuring that those seeds are nurtured and bear fruit. I look forward to doing that work again together with you. In a moment, you will have the opportunity to talk to city commissioners and leaders who want to hear from you. I want to thank you again for your time and for caring so much about our great city. Thank you, one and all.
All right, and good evening. My name is Susie Park, and I serve as the Budget Director for the City of Chicago. I want to welcome all of you to our 4th year of budget engagement as we prepare for the 2023 budget. And thank you for giving us your time this evening. Before we get started, I want to be sure to start by framing our conversation. And as a reminder, when we talk about the city's budget, it does not include our sister agencies. And we get this question often. The city has 5 sister agencies, and you see them listed up on the screen. Each has their own budget and governing board that is separate and distinct from the city. So when we talk about the city's budget tonight, we're going to talk about the city of Chicago's budget at large, which does not include our sister agencies. To give everyone an idea of where we are in the process, every year we kick off the budget process in June with all of our departments, where they begin developing their budgets and what they need for the following year. We also begin community engagement efforts, as we're doing tonight, to help shape the development of our overall budget. We publish the budget forecast in August, which projects our expected revenues and expenditures for the coming year, and then we start working collaboratively to balance our budget. The mayor then submits the proposed budget to our city council in the fall, and then the Committee on the Budget and Government Operations, led by Chairwoman Dowell, holds budget hearings over multiple weeks to discuss the proposed budget with each of our departments. City Council then approves the budget by sometime before the end of the year, and then the final approved budget, which we call the annual appropriation ordinance, goes into effect on January 1st. As Chairwoman Dowell mentioned, last year, your feedback helped shape more than $1.9 billion in investments across multiple priority areas that you see on the screen. Today, your thoughts and ideas will continue to provide us valuable information for the 2023 budget. To prepare everyone for the conversation that we're going to have tonight, we are going to play a short video where you will hear from our city leaders on some of the progress that we've made on some of these investments. Hello, my name is Susie Park, and I serve as the Budget Director for the City of Chicago. We are excited to be back with all of you for our 4th year of budget engagement. Since 2019, the Office of Budget and Management and Mayor Lori Lightfoot have hosted dozens of town halls, roundtables, Facebook Lives, and forums to talk to our residents, businesses, community-based organizations, and community leaders about what they want to see in their neighborhoods. More than 100,000 Chicagoans have participated in these engagement efforts over the last 3 years. This year, just like in past years, community engagement will help guide us as we continue to provide the services our residents need while keeping the city on a course towards a stable and sustainable financial future. Since 2019, the city has invested more than $2 billion in new and ongoing key investments as a result of community feedback. These are more than just numbers. They represent real lifelines, programming, resources, and yes, money that will reach our residents, and we know it's making a difference. In order to ensure that we are able to continue addressing the priorities of our residents, we need to continue conversations like the ones we are having today, which allow us to keep learning and make sure that your feedback is incorporated into the upcoming 2023 budget. Today, we are circling back to report out on the progress we have made so far this year and provide you an opportunity to discuss your ideas directly with our decision makers. Thank you for being part of this important work. Next, you will hear from some of our city leaders who will provide an update on some of the key initiatives that last year Chicago residents told us were priorities.
Our work for 2023 really began last year. In December of 2021, we announced our largest ever funding round, $1 billion. It's the most we have ever been able to do by far, almost double our last funding round. And it was made possible in part by the Chicago Recovery Plan. So with that, we were able to make commitments to 24 developments. That's about double anything we've done before. And we are now moving those deals forward into communities across the city. One of the things I'm most excited about, of the 24 developments, 12 of them are near transit on the south and west side. That's never been done before. Coming up into 2023, we will be issuing another funding round. And we're so thrilled that the work that we've done on a racial equity impact assessment will impact yet again the developers we're working with. We want them to reflect the people that live in these communities and will reflect the ability for people to choose where they want to live across this entire city. We look forward to enacting the 24 developments that we announced funding for in December, and to announcing a new funding round. In the spring, we will be putting out another call for proposals. And it's important to us to note that that proposal will be influenced by the racial equity impact assessment that we did last year that really guides our developments to ensure that we're equitably investing across the city, across neighborhood types, and giving people as many choices and options in where they can live affordably as possible.
DFSS is dedicated to making homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. As we navigated the COVID-19 pandemic, the department prioritized keeping homeless individuals safe by opening up 9 alternate shelters, changing the configuration of our congregate shelters, and moving people to permanent housing as quickly as possible. Through rapid rehousing programming, DFSS helps thousands get off the streets and out of shelters into safe, stable homes. Mayor Lightfoot's focus on housing first solutions has helped DFSS increase the resources necessary to help individuals get housed and remain housed. In August 2020, we launched a rental assistance platform that allows us to connect with thousands of residents facing housing insecurity. We have seen great success improving our process and making this funding available to persons who are struggling to make ends meet. Since 2019, these investments have also increased our capacity to help individuals move from streets and into homes. Starting in 2020, DFSS began investing $35 million to launch the Expedited Housing Initiative, which brings housing services directly to individuals experiencing homelessness. Since 2020, over 1,764 households have moved into housing from shelter or encampments. The department will also invest in similar strategies that support other vulnerable populations in which housing becomes a key factor, including a new $4.5 million investment through the Chicago Recovery Plan dedicated to helping survivors of gender-based violence with housing and supportive services. Housing is a fundamental right. Our dedication to individuals who are homeless or housing insecure has grown dramatically over these last years, and we will continue to build strategies with our sister agencies that focus on housing first solutions.
At At the Chicago Department of Public Health, obviously the last few years have had a lot of attention on COVID, but also we have been working very hard to expand behavioral health resources for Chicagoans, regardless of income, ability to pay, insurance status, or immigration status. To give you one example, if you look at 2019, our whole budget for mental health services was $12 million a year. And we were serving about 3,600 Chicagoans with clinical-based mental health services. This year, our budget has increased from $12 million to $89 million, but more importantly, we've gone from serving 3,600 Chicagoans all the way up to this year, we're on track for 60,000 Chicagoans. And that's just for clinic-based mental health services. We've worked with partners, 50 of them across the city, and by the end of the year, we anticipate having at least one site in all of Chicago's 77 neighborhoods where people can get clinic-based care without barriers. But we've also been working to bring mental health services outside of the walls of clinic. This is an important and critical role for city government to play, whether that's embedding mental health professionals in the 911 response system for the first time, whether that's doing more outreach, bringing mental health and substance use care to individuals experiencing homelessness or on the CTA, whether that's working to make sure people who have more serious mental illness and have trouble keeping outpatient appointments can get care without needing to have appointments, whether that's linking children who have needs that can't be met in the school system to higher levels of care. We're growing and continuing to grow mental health, substance use, and violence prevention resources.
The 2023 budget is a tool for us to be able to implement that public health approach. It ensures that we have investments in infrastructure, expansions of access to mental health, but also continues to fund an extraordinary expansion of violence prevention programming started by the mayor to ensure that we have a civilian infrastructure in place preventing violence before it occurs. The CSEC's budget also includes new funding to implement innovative approaches to violence prevention. This includes funding marketing campaigns to address the need for more education around the root causes of violence and the approaches that are necessary, as we all have a role to play in violence prevention.
The Chicago Police Department is always working to strengthen public safety across every neighborhood. Over the past few years, we've been working to identify areas in which we can improve safety for everyone in Chicago. In addressing violent crime, we've been strategically deploying resources and focusing on what's driving crime in our city. This year, we identified the top 55 police beats where more than half of the city's violent crime is occurring. Through precision deployment, including personnel and resources, we've seen a consistent reduction in homicides and shootings within these areas. Public safety is equal parts law enforcement and community engagement. The department maintains important programming like the Neighborhood Policing Initiative, the Police Arts and Athletic League. The Neighborhood Policing Initiative is a critical part of our community engagement strategy. Its funding will support additional resources so that we can expand from 10 districts to all 22 districts in the police department, which has played a critical role in engaging the public and building trust.
At DFSS, we recognize our responsibility in ensuring that young people have access to experiences that will help them explore their interests, develop their passions, and build their own pathways to the future. The Chicago Youth Service Corps was designed in 2020 as a civic leadership engagement program to specifically support young people who wanted to make a difference in their communities and develop solutions to problems they were facing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, the Chicago Youth Service Corps youth has leveraged their talents to address systematic racism, create podcasts to spark social dialogue, raise social awareness on the importance of mental health, and organize food drives to combat food insecurity. Overall, the program connects young people with their communities, showing just how important their role as civic leaders can be. Through a $29.2 million Chicago Recovery Plan investment, the Service Corps is now a 40-week program that will serve over 3,500 youth through 2024. Through our One Summer Chicago program, over 19,500 Chicago youth between the ages of 14 to 24 are embarking on their own summer opportunities this year. For 6 weeks, Chicago's youth will further connect to pathways in fields like healthcare, media, technology, and more. Thanks to Mayor Lightfoot's $24.2 million investment into career exploration, wages have increased year over year. All of our youth employment and enrichment opportunities can now be found through the My Chi, My Future mobile app. Residents can go to explore.mychimyfuture.org. We will continue to ensure young people have meaningful work experiences throughout the year and provide resources, putting them on a path to earn increased sustainable wages in high-demand careers.
In 2022, we also saw a really important increase in DCASE's budget of $26 million, thanks to the support of Mayor Lightfoot and our elected officials. That included a first-of-its-kind $10 million allocation from the city's corporate line item to help stabilize our department from the fluctuations in the hotel occupancy tax, which is how we are primarily funded. We also saw a $16 million influx of funds from ARPA to help us again help the creative sector, both individuals and organizations, recover from the pandemic. That ARPA investment included one of our signature programs that we launched just recently called Together We Heal, which is a partnership with the Office of Racial Equity and Justice to fund projects in neighborhoods that are really at the intersection of arts and culture and community health and healing. So we're looking at how arts can really help to stabilize communities and help them grow and help them prosper.
And 2019 is when we started work on the strategic plan for transportation for the city. And that's our shared roadmap. That's safer streets, that's better infrastructure, that's better transit service, it's bus lanes, bike lanes, and so much more that make our neighborhoods vibrant and make it as easy as possible for you to move around the city. So we've done a lot since then. You saw our expanded outdoor dining, shared streets, open boulevards programs, these kinds of activations that really put our streets in service of what communities need and want, and also help local businesses to survive and thrive. Since 2020, we have resurfaced hundreds of miles of streets and alleys. And in fact, by the end of this year, we'll have delivered over 530 miles through the Chicago Works program. This includes over 120 miles of new bikeway infrastructure. This also includes an enormous amount of improvements towards safety, and that is a high priority for us. One of the things that is really important to us is making sure that our corridors in neighborhoods are those complete streets. That means all of those pieces of sidewalks and lighting and benches and plantings, all the things that make it great and vibrant and safe.
In 2022, through the Chicago Recovery Plan, Mayor Lightfoot announced $188 million in climate and environmental justice priorities. This is the single largest investment of its kind in the city's history. Through these investments, the city of Chicago will plant 75,000 trees over the next 5 years in communities that need them the most. We will get a jump start on electrifying the city's fleet, and will also advance more low-carbon mobility options and make it easier for Chicagoans to walk, bike, and take public transit. We will invest in new green infrastructure to prevent urban flooding and to help communities that are most vulnerable to climate change. And we will invest in new environmental justice initiatives for communities that have long shouldered the burden of environmental harm.
Here in Chicago, thanks to Mayor Lightfoot's leadership, we are deeply focused on equitable economic development and even more focused on making sure that that economic development and our recovery coming out of COVID happens in the right places all throughout Chicago. Another example of our focus on equitable economic development is the Chicago Recovery Plan. Now, this was a over $1.2 billion economic program that was backed both with funds from the Biden administration, but also Mayor Lightfoot matched that funding with the first ever economic development bond in the city's history. Some of the programs are our Corridor Ambassador program, where across 12 neighborhoods in the city, we have 100 people who are on the main commercial retail retail strips, greeting people as they shop. It's creating jobs, it's helping create a safer city, and it's creating opportunity for so many residents. Another great example is our community development grants. Well over $100 million is going to support economic development projects throughout the city. And these are catalytic projects that really can help create more amenities in your neighborhood. So moving forward, why is this budget so important? This budget is going to double down on Mayor Lightfoot's commitment to equitable economic recovery and focus on economic development in the communities that need it the most.
All right, we're going to move into the discussion part of this evening. As Tina mentioned, we have partnered with UIC's Great Cities Institute again this year to help us with our community engagement, and we'll be collecting all of your feedback today to publish the report out of the engagement efforts that we will publish along with our budget. With that, I'd like to introduce Taya Crum, Associate Director of the Great Cities Institute, to take us through the roundtable activity for tonight.
Thanks so much, Budget Director. Good evening. I am so honored to be here with you tonight. We are excited to start the engagement activity. As Director Park and the commissioners and Chairman Dowell have all talked about, this engagement really deepens and builds upon last year, where the city heard from the community about specific programs and services that you all were interested in funding. The results from these community engagement activities were used to develop responsive initiatives, which are really budget investment needs. There are things like identify opportunities for the expansion of affordable housing development. And under each of these responsive initiatives, there are usually several programs and services being implemented by the city, as you just heard about in the video. So the goals for this year include circling back with the community to share progress on the 2022 responsive initiatives. You heard highlights of all of this progress in the video that was just shared. Having meaningful conversations between department leaders and residents on priority areas to inform the 2023 budget, and providing additional feedback to inform the development of new responsive initiatives for 2023. To do this, and to accomplish our goals together, each of you received a packet at registration. And this packet includes 4 main documents, each for one of the main 4 topic areas, including affordable housing and services to persons experiencing or at risk of homelessness, community safety and youth services, public health and services and mental health, neighborhood and community development, and arts and culture. Each document includes a top sheet, which is an individual form where you can provide feedback on specific programs and services, and behind it, to help complete the form, is a spreadsheet with detailed information on each responsive initiative, as well as all of the information on corresponding programs and services and progress to date. These reports on the responsive initiatives are also available online, as well as the individual forms in a survey. So people who are not able to attend can also participate from the comfort of their home. And in a minute, before we begin, we'll give you a few minutes to review all of your packets and have some time to fill them out. Next, the majority of our time today is going to be spent in these roundtable discussions. And as Tina mentioned, we're going to have 4 topic conversations. Each will be 15 minutes, and each will have a department leader at your table. There will be 1 conversation per topic area. Your table may begin with any one of these topic areas, but each table will have 4 different topic conversations. At the end of the first 15-minute conversation, a new department leader will join your table to discuss a different topic. So don't worry, you don't have to get up and move. We're going to bring the topic to you. And the point of these is to really just engage and have great in-depth conversations about each of these topics. We're asking for a volunteer at each table to help take notes, The individual forms and the notes from your conversations will be used to help prepare a report and to help inform the budget moving forward. So once again, thanks so much for your participation, your willingness to share ideas and feedback. It's critically important for this budget process. So let's get started. Thank you. 2-minute warning, everyone. In about 2 minutes, we'll move on to the next conversation. Thank you. All right, thank you. It is time to move on to the next conversation. Don't forget to pass the notes back to the department leader. Thank you. Okay, folks, the next conversation has started, but I have to ask a favor. Hey guys. Excuse me. I'm getting attention. Hey. So, I try to be as sensitive as I can when folks come to me and say that that we're not being accessible. We have some people in the room who are hard of hearing, so they don't do sign. And it's really hard for them to hear what's going on when there's a lot of ambient noise. And I see all kinds of wonderful conversations happening, and I want all these standing, fabulous conversations to continue. But maybe you guys could go outside so that the folks in the room who are trying to do the exercise, there's not as much ambient noise. So thank you for being considerate of our friends in the room who are hard of hearing and want to participate. Thank you. 2-minute warning for your second conversation. You've got about 2 minutes left for your second conversation. Thank you. All right. It's the end of your second conversation. Please move on to your third conversation. Thank you so much. is your 2-minute warning for your third conversation. Thank you. All right, we are getting ready for our fourth conversation. So it's time to switch and move on. Also, we want to make sure that there is enough time for the public comment period. And so, given where we're at in terms of time, we're going to shorten the fourth conversation by just a little bit. We're going to have it be 10 minutes to make sure that there's enough time for people to be able to provide comments and hear from the commissioners up here in the front. Thank you so much.
Could Jenny Bennett and Matt Richards, and I see Angela coming.
Could you remind people to fill out that?
Folks, those of you at the table, we need to wrap up. There are forms that you need to fill out. Please be sure to fill out your forms. And then, how are the forms being collected? Okay, this is like one of those cooking shows. Time's up. We've got volunteers coming around the room to collect the forms. And you guys should start. Okay, it's party time. We are now moving into the section that is the opportunity for the public to make comments. I am going to ask again about the side conversations. Like, if you're having a side conversation, it's hard for the room to get focused. We have 2 microphones. April, you're so little. Make Travis raise his hand. So over here, there's 1 microphone. And over here, there's another microphone. We are not going to be responding to questions today, but we want to hear the comments. They will be recorded. And we will be creating a frequently asked question document that will be shared. We've also have on the table this little card. We know that George is going to say something because George likes to talk, but everybody doesn't like to talk. And so if you have a question or comment and you want to write it down instead of speaking publicly, we will collect the cards. Do I have 3 people on that side? 3? Okay. And I have no one over here. Okay. So you 3 are going to go first. If anyone else comes over here, they'll have to wait for you guys because you were up first. All right. Are we ready? Travis, can you send some people over here so it's more balanced? Ready? And we're going to have the clock at 1 minute. 1 minute for comment, and I'll try to be merciful if you're in the middle of a sentence. So go ahead. And please introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Okay, my name is Amber Smock, and I'm the Director of Advocacy for Access Living. And I want to highlight something that really bothered me about the presentation, which is that with $1 billion being invested in affordable housing, we have no idea how much of that is accessible for people with disabilities. That's a fail. Access Living has allowed students in the city of Chicago on affordable, accessible housing. And we have had zero movement on any kind of settlement agreement. And so it's upsetting for me to hear that there's $1 billion coming in for housing, and we have no idea how much of it is going to be accessible. That will torpedo efforts at rapid rehousing. Because tons of people with disabilities need that housing, and it's not going to happen. So I'd really like to open that as a door to conversation with Access Living about ensuring that that December round of housing money is going to be for accessible, affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. My friend in the flower dress, because you were up first, please introduce yourself and where you're from.
Thank you so much. My name is Arinda Troutman. I am from the 20th Ward. I work for Pastor Corey Brooks. I work for Project Hood, which is a non-for-profit. We are building a community center, and in the last 9 months, we've raised $18 million, but we need more money. So we're asking the city, we want the mayor to look at us, what we're doing. We've graduated over 10 cohorts of construction classes with young people learning construction trade. We've had an all-girl electrical class, and we're doing a lot of good stuff, and we want the mayor to get on board so she could see what's going on in Woodlawn, what's going on with Pastor Corey Brooks. And in my last 10 seconds, I'm going to plug a meeting, a community meeting we're having on July the 30th, and it's with the clerk's office, Property After Death. So please come out, folks. If you want to register your property after death, you die, the clerk's office will make sure that it goes right to the person you've been a benefactor to, and it's free. And Jim Harbin and Commissioner Cox has been working with our organization, and we are assured that the mayor will be on her radar this year. Thank you.
And if you want to send us information about that meeting on Twitter and you tag Mayor's Office of Community Engagement, we can highlight it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to come to this side. Please introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Hello, my name is Kiara Hardin, and I'm a South Shore resident, and I guess Washington Park resident now. I just wanted to make a comment about things in general. So when thinking about community and neighborhoods, I think that it's really important to take the lens of the social determinants of health in all of the areas in which make the sustainable community as well as a sustainable individual. And whereas One Summer Chicago is a great program, it doesn't necessarily lead to progressive or opportunities outside of that programming. And with the staff of 2 people, I don't really know if they have the ability to do that. So that's one of the things that I wanted to remark on, as well as thinking about renters and rental assistance. I know that the mayor has an ordinance right now that's really focused on condos and condominium owners, but as a person who rents in South Shore and will be a homeowner in Washington Park, the reason I'm moving to Washington Park is because I got a loan and I still couldn't find somewhere to live in South Shore. So I think that it's an issue in multiple areas, and just to think about communities as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations on getting a home. Next.
Good evening. My name is Erica Mendez. I'm the Associate Director of Education Policy with the Latino Policy Forum. Thank you so much for holding these stakeholder engagement forums. I did want to comment on the urge to invest in our early care and education system. I didn't see that reflected in some of the priorities, specifically around modernizing our data infrastructure to make sure we know what services families are accessing in which communities and are able to better target some of those. I know through the Head Start recompetition, we lost about $19 million in the Early Learning Workforce Scholarship, which is critical for our workforce and child care as the backbone of our entire workforce. So really looking to fill that gap. It's about $13.5 million for that scholarship. In addition to increased compensation for those staff. I know District of Columbia has done one-time compensation increases for staff just to, I think, value the effort that they've made. And lastly, I know there's been a lot of transition in the Office of Early Learning in DFSS around how to bring in leadership and staffing to support a lot of early learning. So really encouraging investment to support those departments as they engage with families, with providers, and convene public-private partners to really inform that process.
Great. Thank you for the comments. Next.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
My name is Jessica Foster, and I'm with People Matter. We are a small nonprofit on the south side of Chicago. And I just wanted to comment specifically around housing. There seems to be a focus on affordable housing, which is in theory very great, but I do want to ask and comment about why is there such a focus on affordable housing and not public? Because contrary to popular belief, a lot of people feel like it's the same thing, and it's in fact not. And affordable and public seems to be used interchangeably, which is understandable, but I digress. I also wanted to talk about the public housing or housing in regards to the Harold Ickes land, or Harold Ickes housing development. Currently, it is having a school in plans of being built on top of it, when 20 years ago, those people in that housing development were displaced and promised a new building, a new home. And I want to comment on the fact that there seems to be focus on housing within the presentation and within the groups. However, that building of that school is a blatant disregard for the Black and brown people, poor people that deserve those housing developments, that housing development in particular, and that are currently still homeless in that surrounding area waiting for something that may never happen. So, yeah.
Thank you for the comments, and we'll also make sure CHA hears your comments. Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is George Blakemore, and I have a title that I wear, a concerned citizen. I'm sorry to hear about death in Lady Lightfoot family. You tell her she had my condolences. Anyway, the budget is how the money is going to be spent. I hope that each one of you are good stewards. I hope that you will work with the city, which you are the city. I hope you will work with the state and the county, because some of you are doing duplicate service. So you need an intergovernment agreement. All of you are looking for your little pocket of money. So let's work together. And hopefully I would have seen or saw one of those verbs, the alderman here from this ward. So I don't know what's going on with the black community, inward fight, and other people are progressing. Economic development should be in these black communities. Now, where's the alderman here? So let Lady Lightfoot know. And you go out there and let this alderman know, all of us who are black, we must work together in the interest of our community to deliver good service, contracts, and jobs. Our people are leaving this global city. Other people are moving in. The Hispanic, the Asians, the white. Why are black leaving the city of Chicago? Why?
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore.
So thank you too. Now, this is money. God bless each one of you, and in return, let somebody else and let them be black. God bless.
Next, please introduce yourself and your affiliation. Is the mic on? Go. Is that it? Are we finished? come to this one. Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. My name is Maxwell. Thank you, appreciate it. My name is Maxwell. I had a quick 2 notes. The first is on mental health. I noticed that on our checkbox, none of the mental health was related to survivors or victims of violence. There's a lot of trauma in our city, particularly on the south and west side. We look at the violence that's going on. So when we talk about violence prevention, we need to talk about the trauma that's going on relative to the victims and the people that are surviving from that. I don't know if Tamara is here, but I've been in communication with your department. I still need some email responses back. Stephanie Harris, Erica Davis, please respond back to the emails. That's in regards to survivor families that need mental health. The second comment is in regards to dilapidated buildings. We'd like to see something very serious happen in regards to that. The community is riddled with dilapidated buildings or buildings that are vacant by owners that are no longer present. We'd like to find out how can we expedite a process by which the community can take those buildings back and use them for better use cases and improve their neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, my rule was like if it was like maybe a gap in understanding. So I just want to do this very quickly. So we have at the end our Chief Financial Officer, Jenny Bennett. We have Angela Tovar. I give her the title Chief Sustainability Officer. I have no idea if that's correct. Is it now? Oh, I made it up and it happened. Yay, Chief Sustainability Officer. We have our Chief Coordination Officer for the CSCC. I'm getting there. Brandy Kanazi, our Commissioner for the Department of Family Services. We have Matt Richards, who works with CDPH on the mental health issues, including ones that were just raised. We have Marisa Navarro, our Commissioner of Housing. And we have, of course, Susie Park, our Budget Director. I'm sorry I didn't introduce you guys sooner. Forgive me for that. But on the point of the trauma care, it wasn't on the sheet, but it's a huge part of our investments. And between you and Matt, maybe.
Yeah, I think I'll just say I will come and speak to you after this and talk about that concern. I'll turn it over to Matt to talk about the mental health piece. One thing I do want to say though is that I oversee the Community Safety Coordination Center, and the #1 focus of that is making sure that the violence prevention strategies that the city is funding and supporting are starting at the hyper-local level. And a huge part of that is directly engaging with gun violence survivors. And so we actually have been working with a set of leadership to identify both policy goals as well as better understand the challenges that are faced every day in our city by the thousands of gun violence survivors that are here. And we recognize the trauma that's experienced. We are understanding and listening quite a bit to the need for emergency supplemental funding when gun violence happens, but also to support longer term needs. We're trying to come up with some solutions to that in this budget, but also moving forward. And we are working with CDPH as they work extensively on expanding mental health care to also put out new trainings and opportunities so that those that are directly working with those in crisis also have the skill sets necessary to identify others in crisis and make sure that they have the help that they need. And Matt, I know you'll want to address and talk a little bit about the work you're doing.
Yeah, so if you go back to 2019, which was the prior administration's last budget, we had a $12 million mental health budget in the 3rd largest city in the country. I mean, if you think about that, that's rather staggering. We were delivering services to 3,500 people a year, and we were funding 5 clinics in 77 communities. By this fall, we will be funding a clinic in every single community, and we will be delivering services to 60,000 people rather than 3,500. The network of clinics that we're funding are called trauma-informed centers of care. So it's 50 mental health organizations around the city. It's community health centers, community mental health centers, and community-based organizations. And they've all committed to provide mental health services to anybody in that community who needs it, regardless of health insurance status, immigration status, or ability to pay. The reason we call it trauma-informed centers of care is exactly for the reason that you mentioned, that anybody who is getting funding from the city in mental health needs to understand the impact that trauma has on human development and on mental health symptoms. And you need to know how to work with folks in ways that are not re-triggering, re-traumatizing, and reflect an understanding of how trauma impacts people's functioning. The second thing I just wanted to highlight on mental health, a major focus of the mayor has been incorporating mental health professionals into 911 response. So that's something that we started doing last fall, is we now have 3 teams. We'll have a 4th team later this year answering 911 calls with a mental health component. And the City of Chicago's never had mental health professionals as a part of our 911 response team. So that's, again, trying to provide trauma responsive mental health services in the moment to get the best possible outcome. So it's been a huge focus for us.
Thank you. And I'm not going to break my rule again because I want everyone to have a chance to put their comments on the table. I'm actually going to go to this side. If you could introduce yourself and your organization.
Hello. Hi, my name is Elaine, and I'm with Treatment Not Trauma. And as you rightfully said, people have a lot of trauma, especially in the South and West Side, and a lot of that trauma comes from the police. Police has caused a lot of havoc and distrust and violence in their communities. And so when we're talking about survivors, we're also talking about people who have been harmed by the police, and yet money is continuously poured into the police budget. Every year, the amount that they receive increases, while mental health clinics, like trauma centers in the South and West Side, where there are predominantly Black people, continuously get shut down, and money is continuously stripped away from mental health services in these communities, but yet we're seeing that we are invested in and we are committed to caring for and supporting these people. You also named that 911 would be a place for folks to call and get access to mental health services. We also need to stop having 911 be the place where folks are getting support for having mental health crises. We know that police, because data has continuously showed, and we know that the city loves data and numbers, and there's so much data and numbers that say police escalate issues, especially, well, all issues, but especially on mental health crises. They often exasperate and use and have guns when we should have mental health professionals and EMTs who are trained in de-escalation and know how to care for people who are having mental health crises, be the one to support and move them through that rather than police, because we know they're not doing what the city and what the police always says they're supposed to do, but yet we continuously keep pouring money into them. So if we're actually investing in the South Side, the West Side, Black.
Next. I'm gonna take a point of moderator privilege. I appreciate the comments of the speaker, but I also hope that you listened to the explanation of the investments that Matt and Tamara spoke about just before the speaker spoke. So, thank you. Next. Or weren't you back?
Yes, I am. I just want to add on. I probably won't need the full minute, but I definitely want to add on. Whereas we did hear the things that you all had said.
Take your mask down just a little bit.
We did hear the things that you all had said. I think that it's very important that we are proactive when it comes to, wellness and treatment of trauma instead of being reactionary. Relying on the police is relying on an incident to already happen, and then they come, and we should be proactive about it. So yeah, and all of the things that they said are accurate and true. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Asha. I'm a Woodlawn resident. I'm a community organizer. I work with young people. So I also want to comment on the police budget, which makes up roughly 40% of the city budget. My understanding is that number is close to $2 billion and has increased every year since at least 2012. In 2020, the investment that the city was making in mental health care equated to about 1% of that number. Now, I know there's been increased investment in mental health, and I want to comment on the approach. I think the city's emphasis on investing in nonprofit and private mental health providers is a problem. I think that we need to see the city reopen the closed public mental health centers, and then I think the other thing about the approach, right, is a co-responder model. When we consistently see that police escalate and bring violence to situations of mental health crises, I think we need to see the city invest in a non-police mental health crisis response like the Treatment Not not trauma model. For example, if we talk about comparing to the police budget, right, last year there were 900 vacancies that were funded. CPD themselves said we can only fill 300 of these vacancies. That's 600 jobs that could have been going towards 600 public jobs that could have been going towards funding actual expanded mental health care, expanded investment in jobs of people who are actually trained to provide care, instead of bringing guns and violence to situations like mental health crises that could possibly escalate the situation. So that's just one way, one line item that we could be reinvesting from this approach that is, one, over-reliant on private and nonprofit providers, and two, tied up with policing in ways that are unnecessary and harmful.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself and your organization. And just one quick thing, so you guys know what I'm doing. When it goes to 1 minute, I put my clock on, and I give at least 30 extra seconds, sometimes a little more if you're in the middle of a very good sentence like our friend was. So, okay.
Hi, I am Tessa. I work with an organization called Family Rescue. We're a domestic violence services agency. We've been talking obviously a lot about trauma and violence and victims of crime. I always just encourage people to keep victims of gender-based violence front and center. 1 in 4 women is affected by domestic violence in their lifetime. That's a lot of citizens of Chicago. We were very lucky this year to have an investment from the city with ARPA funding. We hope that that will be an increased line item budget going forward so we can sustain our services. The Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline just came out with a wonderful report by the network, which I encourage everybody to look at, but there was over 30,000 calls to the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline just last year. That's a ton. It's more than I think it's ever been. And so when we talk about divesting, obviously, from police who are not going to solve gender-based violence, I think we all know that, and reinvesting in community organizations like the network and all of its partners. I just want folks to keep that front of mind and, yeah, hopefully make that a line item budget going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Please introduce yourself and your organization.
Hi, my name is Consuela Hendrick. Oh, sorry. My name is Consuela, and I work for PM. So I guess my comment is on like maybe more investment in like education, CPS. I know that CPS is doing a new thing with more needs-based things, need-based budgets. But I do feel like it's still not enough. And I know that a lot of the middle school funding has been cut. And I think that middle schools is like that primary time, or it's talks of middle school funding cut. And I think middle school is that primary time where CPS and like public schooling is very important. And I think that that's something that I want to speak to. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
So thank you for that. Former middle school teacher, so I agree with you, but our city budget is separate from CPS's budget, but your comment is noted and we'll be sure to share it with CPS. Thank you. Next.
Hello.
And please introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Hello, my name is Angela Lynn, and I'm also from People Matter. And I first wanted to say, like, thank you everyone for this budget engagement forum. It was actually really, really engaging, and I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and I talked to the people at my table, the city workers, about like different ideas. We brainstormed stuff. So I thought it was a really great session. And I guess that relates to my comment, which I do think that the city should have more engagement with communities, more things like this, basically. And you know, there's a proposal for a new high school in Chinatown where I work, and we had talked to, you know, like hundreds of people, and we got 87 responses, like survey responses, and we didn't tally them up, but just, you know, because I did a lot of the surveying, I would say that over half of the people didn't know that there was, you know, a new school. They didn't know about the 78 development. Basically, a lot of community members don't know what's going on in their communities, and like every single person except for one person said they wanted more meetings and more community engagement.
So thank you for that. As Chief Engagement Officer, I've particularly heard that, and I'm actually going to ask Bart to get your contact information and others, because I would love to do a session with some of you who think we need to engage differently or may have some ideas, because I will tell you, we did social media, we did real media, we did billboards, we did list, we went to friends with list, so I would love help sort of cracking that nut, because I'd love to see this room filled with community, so thank you. And with that, are we done for the evening? I want to thank everyone, particularly community members who have come today. You're the most important people in this room. I want to thank my colleagues, the commissioners and senior staff, and my friends who are on the stage. I want to thank Taya and her team for all their great support, Nubia and Carrie Ann, who really did the work, the rest of my staff, and AIS, because nothing happens without AIS. So thank you all for being here. Also our interpreters I want to thank, and our captioner I want to thank. I try to live with a grateful heart, so I hope I haven't missed anyone, but know that I am grateful that all of you are here and participated in this event. The next one is Saturday at Malcolm X. Feel free to come to another one. So thank you so much.